Hi, I'm Mary Gajak with the Workforce Investment Board of Will County. I work with the Employee Training Grants program that Will County businesses can use to upskill their current workforce. I've invited 3 business representatives who have participated in our training grants program and received grant dollars to provide various skill-related trainings at their companies. We wanted to share their insight with you about use of the program.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Bruce Bechtel. I'm with Brennan Equipment and Manufacturing in University Park, Illinois. I'm the operations manager there. And today we wanted to talk a little bit about our journey utilizing IMEC and the Will County process for training. At Brennan Equipment in University Park, we make material handling products. We make what are known as carts or trucks, certain industrial workbenches and storing equipment. It's a metal fabricated product, so we do a lot of fabricating of sheet metal, forming, bending, and then we do a lot of welding. We have a large powder coating operation, so all of our products are powder coated, and then we assemble them, wrap them, and ship them. It's a pretty fast-paced operation. We sell through our distribution channels with our valued partners. And so that's a little bit about who we are. So we went into this process looking at the opportunity to really grow our work team, to get them what is known as industry as lean skills training. And that lean skills training, it becomes a little bit of a buzzword piece in the industry, but really at the end of the day, what we see it meaning is let's get folks focused on the process of continual and continuous improvement. So if we've got a process today and it's good, what can we do to make that just better? And it's always focused on the situation and not the person. We want to break it down to its individual process steps. We like to charter these projects when we start them to set goals for ourselves to say, hey, we're kind of like here today, but boy, if we could get up to here, we would be so much better with our customers and in the marketplace. So all of that stated, what kind of training did we do? We did a lot of training in the area of what I will call process mapping. Technically, some of it's referred to as value stream mapping. And that process is where you essentially take something that you're doing today and you draw a map of it and you refer to that as its current state. How are we doing business today? Then we kind of look out in the future and we say, hey, how would we like to do business? What does that future state look like? And then we kind of go from the current state map to the future state map, and we try to outline the processes that will connect the dots. So when we hear these big words like lean and some of the other terminologies, people get, whoa, what does that mean? And so we really like to break it down and just say, hey, we just want to lay out what we're doing today, what we want it to look like, and how we get from point A to point B. Inside that process, there's some other skills that we've learned, like how to reduce setups, how to look at general flows. But at the end of the day, the overall focus is how do you help an organization get trained to utilize continuous improvement techniques? And that's really what the focus of the process was. So what were the outputs? We had some pretty awesome outputs. And we've done some things in our shipping area where we've really improved the velocity of products going through. We've done some things even in the office. A lot of times you think of lean and you hear lean manufacturing. We took it into the office and even looked at how we do things with our order entry process and how we streamline that. And what do we do to resource that and get those orders in on time, because it's a critical first cog of the process. We've put these skills to use all over the organization. And as a result, I think one of the real benefits and beauties is our work teams really felt like they had a great takeaway. They felt like, wow, we can do this. They might have been a bit intimidated at first. You guys are going to go through lean manufacturing training. Whoa, what does that mean? And when they break it down and we see that lean is essentially very simple at the end of the day. I had somebody explain it to me one time, is technically very simple, emotionally very complex. Because at the end of the day, when we're going into people's work areas, boy, that's serious. That's like coming into my living room and saying, Bruce, I don't like the way the furniture is arranged. That gets obviously very sensitive in the workplace. And so I think one of the things that the training did is it put people at ease through that process, and they realized that we were really focused on the situation and not the person. And it really built them up in terms of their problem solving skills and their thought process by which they go about working on continuous improvement in the workplace.
Excellent. Well, tell me how you worked through COVID, Bruce. I know that you had training that we had to put on hold. Of course, all of you basically have had an experience with that as far as training goes, but I was very impressed by a picture that I saw on your training floor. So you found ways of working through this in-person training. Would you like to talk about that just for a second?
Absolutely. Of course, we know here several months into COVID what some of the key fundamentals are, which revolve around, social distancing and wearing masks. So those things were fundamental. So we had to really closely look at our workspaces, and we had to clear areas of our operation to socially distance in order that we could have the meetings in areas that that facilitated that. We are blessed to have a very nice covered outdoor patio that our people use for lunches and breaks, and we were able to utilize that space and spread out on picnic tables. One of the training sessions was during the summer, so that worked very well. But then one of the training sessions was in the fourth quarter when the weather wasn't so friendly and favorable. And so we would have, at the end of the day, we would have liked to have had more observers in that training to just kind of see, because we kind of broke our classes down to those being trained and those being able to observe. And so we did have to limit the number of observers, but one way we were able to work with that is a handful of the observers went on a tool called BlueJeans, which is like Zoom, and we were able to have those people observing remotely while we could maintain a socially distanced environment in our lunchroom. And not only did we have Brennan employees working remotely through that process, but one of the instructors was actually dialed in using that process. So we got creative. We did have to manage the numbers, socially distance, use our masks, and use some of the technical tools that are out there today to make this happen.
That's great. Yeah, we were very impressed by that. We had to, make some accommodations in giving an extension to the grants because, everybody was pretty much shut down for months. And we were able still to work with everybody so that they could get their training done, which is the nice thing about this grant is that there are some variables in there depending on the company need. And I also want to mention too that now we can do virtual trainings through this program, which we've never been able to do before because of COVID. The state is allowing virtual trainings 100%. If that would be the case, should you apply again, or of anybody that would be interested in training but can't do the in-person thing, it's the first time ever we've been able to offer that. And that's exciting for us from a workforce board perspective. So that's great. Well, I'm going to move on for the moment. Joe, would you mind introducing yourself and your business and tell us what you've done with the program?
Sure, Mary. Well, Borowski Race Engines does advanced CNC machining primarily for automotive type applications. But what we're really noted for is the retail side of our business, where we build high performance engines that basically sell for what people usually buy cars for, and we ship them all over the world. So yeah, our quality standards are extremely high for both the original equipment manufacturers we supply and our customers, because if you're spending that much money, there better not even be a fingerprint on that engine when they open up the packaging. But in terms of how we have used it, I think we have been able to, in our business, use both sides of both the on-the-job training for new candidates as well as incumbent training, and have welded those together in a way that has really worked out great for us. We, in terms of starting with the OJT and the new candidates, what we had found is that we had problems finding people either with the right skills, or if they had the skills, with the right behaviors and attitudes. What we ended up going to with the OJT is taking applicants and screening them through the use of an online assessment to see if they had the aptitude and the attitude that we were looking for. Things like, for instance, mechanical ability. They had to score high on that. And I think, as more importantly even, is they had to have a passion. They had to be into motorsports. This is what they wanted to do. If they had those things, then we took the Marine Corps approach, and whatever they had in their head that they thought they knew about machining, which if they're coming in through the OJT is typically little or nothing, we were good with that. And then going through the training program over the 6-month period, we would put into their head only those things and those behaviors that we wanted them to have. We found, compared to bringing in people who were machinists, they brought in their old baggage and they thought, oh, this shortcut works, that shortcut works. No, it doesn't. Because if we do anything different for our OEs, it's major drama. We have to write big reports. No, this is the only way you do it. This is our way. There is no other way. If you have a better idea, great. So the OJT was great for bringing those people in. On the incumbent side, we use that to bring in outside trainers to raise the skill level of all of the existing staff. And we had that on our CNC hone, our 3- and 5-axis mills. And I think besides the actual hard skills that they learned, it allowed us to create a learning culture where I'm sure we've all seen it in a lot of places. People think what they know is their job security. They won't share the information. And in our organization, because of I think the incumbent program, people realize, oh, I need to train this guy, but I'm going to get training too. And they all ratchet themselves up. And the net result is that we have now a much more flexible workforce because people can move back and forth between positions, cover for each other, do different jobs. And they realize that helping each other is their way to help themselves. So I think that's really huge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Joe, you're a small company, correct? You have about how many people in your shop?
At the moment, we have a total of 8 employees. Okay,
great. And what about you, Bruce? I should have asked that before. How many people do you have out at Brennan?
About 190.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it shows there's flexibility in the program that can go from, 1 employee in a workplace all the way up to, well, there's no end number. So that's great. That's great. Craig, I'm going to pass it off to you now to talk about National Tube.
Thank you. I'm Craig Kissinger, Director of Human Resources for National Tube Supply. We are a national distributor of mechanical tubing. So that's mechanical tubing is used for anything rotational. You can think conveyor systems. You can think grinders, the big wood chippers. You could think presses, anything, a printing press, anything like that. It's also used heavily in fluid power. So when we think hydraulics, so a lot of times we think agricultural equipment, construction equipment, things of that nature. At National Tube, the training that we provided was partnering with our chief operating officer. We identified gaps on both our leadership side, our leader side of the fence, and also our hourly workforce. And we're looking to utilize the training to address those gaps in each. For the hourly workforce at our facility, we're about similar to Bruce, where we're about a 200 employee organization. We only have about 130 on site here in University Park. Everybody else is at our other locations. but we have about 80 to 90 warehouse people. And a big issue with us is measurement, right? So we buy from the steel mills in 20 or 40 foot lengths of tube, everything that ranges from the size of your pinky to 36-inch diameter with a 1.5-inch wall. So understanding the measurements and what the customer's expectations are paramount. So we partnered with a local junior college to put on metrology training for our workforce. So that is the study of measurement. So they came in and went through how to properly use all the tools, so that when, I know Joe probably doesn't use carbon steel, you know, the big tubes that we have, but if he were to use that on his CNC machines, if he needs a 5 3/4 piece of tube, if it comes in at 5 1/2, that's a problem, right? Because steel doesn't grow. You can always cut off a little bit more, but it generally doesn't grow. So getting our hourly workforce to understand the technical aspect of how to use this equipment, how to use it properly, so that we can meet and exceed our customers' expectations. On our leadership side, our leaders, most of them were homegrown, started out in our warehouse, moved up to be leads and became supervisors. And they didn't have the technical skills necessary always to be a supervisor and leader. And in like most organizations, you take your best employee and put them in a role. So we partnered with a local university to develop technical customized training to give them those technical skills in order to achieve their job. So what was great about that is where the metrology training was, it took 2 to 3 days to conduct across our 3 different shifts, whereas the training that we're providing to the leaders and staff, we did that over probably a 6 to 12 week period so that they could take the information, digest it, go back out to the floor, utilize it, and then come back and talk about it the next time.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, I'd like to know return on investment. I mean, you spent a lot of time training your folks, and we do know just by the success stories that I know from each one of you that there's been major movement in personnel and upwards, and just a great experience. We have testimonials from many of your employees that will say what it did for them. Now we want to know from an employer perspective what your return on investment would be. Anybody have any comments you want to make about that?
Well, I can jump in. We have really benefited tremendously from the training that the employees have had, beginning with the OJT people and all the way through our now shop foreman, who he had gotten the most training sessions of all of them. And despite his very young age, I think he's 28 now, is the shop foreman, and clearly the leader on the floor. He knows the most, and everybody knows he knows the most. And he's really benefited tremendously. That has freed up my son, who runs a business on a day-to-day basis, to not have to worry about the shop and spend the time on the phone with customers, where that is his highest value. It has set off a domino effect of in the shop that everybody there has moved up a notch. So they have all been promoted. They have all taken on greater responsibility, and they're all getting paid more. So morale is as good, frankly, as it's ever been in our, now we're in our 11th year of operation of this business. So from the standpoint of productivity, which is how really it comes down to all it's measured, it's clearly the most productive group. We're able to, because of their skills, adapt to different circumstances. Like, so for example, one of our training sessions we had planned on the 5-axis was how to import the 3-axis programs over to it in case the older 3-axis machine ever went down. Well, sure enough, it went down just as we were in the middle of training. And the people who were going to get trained on 3-axis, well, they were over on the 5-axis as well. And that helped us get through the period of time until we could get that machine back up and operational again. And because we're just in time on the industrial side, that really kept us from having customer problems. So that adaptability, the culture that we have, the ability to move people up, it all has economic benefit basically to the employers, the employees, and the customers. So yeah, for us, it's been really good. And in these difficult times, it comes down to, Darwin says, it's not the strongest or the fastest, it's the most adaptable that'll survive.
Very good. Well, thank you, Joe.
For National Tube, I think where, we've seen it in a couple different ways. Number one, on our claims from customers, making sure the customer gets the right product that they ordered on time the first time. So we've seen a drastic reduction in our what we call customer claims, where it's the wrong product length. So that's been a big benefit for the organization. And on the technical leader training, I think it's adding tools to the toolbox, right? Making sure that everybody hears the same message. So providing that training to everybody at the same time, they were all hearing the same message and getting the same tools into the toolbox all at the same time. So I think that was a good process from at least particularly from an HR standpoint, because then you have consistency and fairness and equality the way we're going to manage those employees.
Very good. Very
You
good.
know, at Brendan, one of the things that has been consistent with each of the training modules that we've done is we've selected some areas to work in, and we use the training as a catalyst for change. And there were areas that were identified that, hey, we could really got an opportunity to make this better. The general theme of each of the training modules was it helped improve the overall velocity inside of the organization. How do we streamline flows so that things aren't getting interrupted, stuck? With that came some benefits in quality because things continued to move more seamlessly. And at the end of the day, the overall order to cash cycle improved because of the improvements to velocity. And based on a lot of these different segments and modules kind of being stacked on top of each other, all in that kind of spirit of lean flow.
Excellent. That's great. Last thing I wanted to touch on was the application process. Do you have any comments or encouragement to share for other companies that may have never been through our program?
I thought,
go ahead, Bruce.
Oh, I'm sorry, Joe. I thought that one of the things that really kind of made me think when doing the application was there's some segments of the application that say, how will this benefit your company? And it made you step back. Wait a minute, I'm applying for training here. And it allowed you to tell the story similar to things that I've already said, that it's going to do these things for us. And I thought that was great, that was part of the application process. And it made us think about, okay, we're not just doing this to check a box that we're doing training, but we're doing this in order to actually secure these results and see some of the growth, a lot of the growth of people stuff that Joe talked about in his piece.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will say that DCEO, who's our reporting agency on this program, always want to see a 50-50, or, you know, it used to be more about the company incentives back before recession days, you know, company. Then all of a sudden we saw that sharp need for job seekers and to get them jobs and in training. And now it's a nice 50-50 balance. We want to see, you know, skills related training. It definitely has to be skill related training. And then also the benefit to the company. It's got to be a 50-50 match, which is nice. So I just wanted to inject that. Craig?
So what I really liked was I didn't feel like I was out there by myself. I felt like it was an easy application process, easy to understand, but I had partners with me the entire time. I had you helping me right along, explaining what I needed to do and making sure I stayed on track. And I also had experienced vendors that helped me through the process on their side to make sure that we dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's. So I appreciated how simple it was, and the partnership with the workforce board and yourself to make sure that it went through as seamlessly as possible.
Thank you. Well, that's our goal, and we have had such great success with this program, and I'm excited that we do have money back in our funding again, and so we're looking forward to helping more companies such as yourself and taking the time to explain that some of what we went through and the results. That's all about what it's about. Any other parting words for anyone? No? Well, I thank you each very much for taking your time this afternoon to visit with me about the program and to encourage others to think about it as well. For those that are seeing this video, you can check out our website at Will County Workforce Board. I had to think about it for a second. willcountyworkforceboard.com, and you can find all the information for the employee training grant there. And with that, have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Mary.
Thanks.